Warning: this podcast may be disturbing to some listeners. Due to the graphic nature, listener discretion is advised. Welcome from wherever you are. This is the Demon Inside podcast. I am your host, John Venom. If you would like to review another episode of the Demon Inside, you can go to Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and any podcast platform. And please, don't forget to subscribe and rate us with 5 stars. A new episode will come out once a week. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
4 live, local, now.
He's still outside right now. I just had my customer come inside, and this cat, he been standing out here all night, and he finally didn't put his hands on somebody.
The 8 News Now investigators first to bring you the 911 calls of the gruesome murder where a man is accused of eating parts of a victim's face. Thank you for joining us at 4. I'm Kirsten Joyce.
And I'm Brian Loftus. Those tapes go on for about 9 minutes, and a warning, the audio is very disturbing. Our own Kyle Payne here now with this breaking story.
Kirsten and Brian, we were first to bring you news of the murder over the weekend and first to identify the suspect in this case. 29-year-old Colin Czech is accused of beating a man to death downtown and then eating his eyeball and ear. That first call came before 5 a.m. Sunday, and witnesses who called 911 couldn't believe what they were seeing.
Okay, sir. If you get more information or if anything gets worse anyway...
He's beating him, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am, please. Get that police over here.
Okay.
And the ambulance.
On the line?
You said he's beating him right now?
Yeah. He's kneeing him on the face.
Which one is me? Which is it? The HMA? It's the Hispanic that's beating
the guy with the burgundy on is kneeing the other guy on the face. Yeah. The Hispanic guy. Oh my God! I don't know what the.
Is he still beating him?
Yeah, I don't know what the was it is, man. That's some weird.
What else is going on besides him hitting?
Ma'am, I'm by my store. I have to go back to my store.
There were a couple of different emergency calls. At first, there's a discussion about a man being beaten or eaten. 45 minutes later, in a call from across the street where the body was found, there are reports of a man being eaten. We've since learned that the defendant has told police he was, quote, possessed and had been up for 5 straight days, Brian.
Kyle, thank you. The defendant, Colin Czech, was in court yesterday. Now, his lawyer argued that Czech is not competent to stand trial.
Hello, my Demon Insiders, and welcome back to the Demon Inside. I'm your host, John Venom, and today we are going to be doing the Demon Inside Colin Czech. Now, before I start, I'm going to go ahead and do some shout-outs because I have quite a bit, guys, and not just like 1 or 2. We're talking like families here. First one is going to be Alex and Jessica. Alex and Jessica are very good friends of mine, and they have known me for a few years now, and they're a great couple, and they actually help me out sometimes with my podcast. So, and I know I've never sent out a shout out to them. That's why I'm doing this now. So Alex and Jessica, thank you so much for everything you do for me. Because without you guys, I would not be calm enough or focused enough to do this show. So thank you. Then I have a shout out to, so I do security for World Car Kia, and Dan is actually the general manager at World Car Kia here in San Antonio on the north side. And I'm sending him a shout out along with his wife, Rebecca, and their gorgeous little girl, Emma. She's so cute. And now I'm going to send out a shout out to, I go to the bank quite a bit. And whenever I do go to the bank, I talk about my podcast with everybody in the bank. And I know it sounds weird, but there's only 3 or 4 people that are in there at a time. And so I want to send out a shout out to Terry, Fabian, and Daly from Greater Texas Federal Credit Union. It's hilarious because every time I go in there, I steal their candies that they have in the bowl, and we talk about true crime. Terry is a fan of true crime. So, and last but not least, so I talked to Shannon a while back, and Shannon, as you know, is one of my demon insiders. And I told her, you know, I sent her messages all the time through my show, and she's always told me that there's other workers, our co-workers or nurses that are listeners to my show at the Mayo Clinic. So what I'd like to do, and this is because of Shannon, so just let her know to thank you, you know, but Shannon asked me if I could send out shout outs to Michelle, Sarah, and Zandra. Ladies, I am so happy you guys like my show, and I am so happy and so proud that, you know, I can do this for you guys. Send you all a shout out. I hope you all like this next show we're going to do. So let's go ahead and talk about Colin Czech. Now, Colin Czech was actually arrested in April of 2024. And I try not to do so many current cases because I don't get a lot of information. He still hasn't gone through trial. He was actually unfit to stand trial until recently, according to Las Vegas PD. Now, before I tell you this, what he did, let me give you a quick rundown of who he is. Let me give you his history. And this is the only history that I could find. So Colin Czech was actually enrolled in college online at the University of Arizona Global Campus. He's 29 years old. He worked for ResMed, which is the people that make sleep apnea machines. And I found a video of him. He did a video on YouTube called Communication Apprehension. I'll put that link on the bottom so you can look at it. He's a very intelligent guy. He was going for his MBA at the time. He was out of San Diego. It's so weird because I really couldn't find much on him. So I don't know if the police took out his social medias or if they canceled like his background stuff, but there's not a whole bunch about him. The video he created on YouTube was in December of 2020, okay? Then he actually did a LinkedIn page on January of 2024. The police thought that he was on drugs, and I'm going to get into that here in a second, but you know, on my show, I try to find the demon inside, and a lot of times there is no demon possession. It might be, like I said before, there's obsession, there's infestation, there's oppression, and possession is probably one in a million, you know? It's kind of like meeting a serial killer. In our entire lifetimes, we may never meet one, but we know they exist. Same thing, I believe, with demons. Now, let me get this straight because I want people to understand. Just because I think that they're possessed, this is coming from my point of view, my theories. Plus, also, I'm not saying that these people worshiped Satan. I'm not saying that these people prayed to a satanic Bible. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is that there was a lapse somewhere where this demon was able to take control. And when it took control, it created the havoc that this case has. So let me go ahead and tell you what happened with Colin Czech. In April 2024, there was a 911 call. And this was at 4:44 a.m. in the morning. And it was from a 7-Eleven employee who said that there was a man that was eating someone's face. So the first call that they got at 4:44 a.m., they said that this guy had been out there, and they said he was mimicking one of the employees. Now, this is what the news said as well, that he was mimicking or he was mocking. I don't think he was mocking the guy. There was an employee outside in the parking lot area, and it looks like on the video that he is trying to learn how to be human. Like he's looking and trying to figure out what this guy is doing with the broom and how to copy him, you know. So I know this sounds weird because when we think of demons, we think of really sophisticated demons that come out in movies. We really think about demons that are, you know, sharp dressers, or they have a silver tongue or whatever. This demon in particular for me is more animalistic. The demon that I'm talking about is the Demon Wuzhiqi. And we've talked about this before on season 1 with Rudy Eugene, Anesson Joseph, Austin Harrouff, and on season 2 we talked about it with Matthew Bernard. Now, this Demon Wuzhiqi is a water demon that is also half monkey. For me, this demon is the thing that drives these few men who had no mental defects. They had no drug-related or induced psychosis. Even though everybody would like to say that they did, they didn't. They were not on Flakka. They were not on bath salts. So let me get back to Colin Czech. So Colin Czech was in the parking area. And like I said, the guy that was sweeping, he started to mimic him, or he started to see, it looks like. But he also gets down on the ground. Now on the news, if you watch the video, they say that he was doing push-ups, but it doesn't look like he was doing push-ups. It looks like he was being more animalistic. He got down on all fours, and he was growling, and he was showing his teeth. Then he attacks the guy that was holding the broom or sweeping, and they start fighting. Now, when the police did arrest him, and I'm kind of going back and forth because this is going to make more sense rather than going just straight at it, okay? When the police arrested him, they said he was going in and out of consciousness. Now, on the video that the news shows, it shows where he's fighting with the employee, and then all of a sudden he like backs off and he's like bouncing, you know, like a boxer. That's not a demon, that's him. I think he was going in and out of conscious at the time, and he didn't know what was going on because all of a sudden, you know, there's a guy on top of him hitting him. And then there's two guys confronting him when he gets away from him. And then he loses, I'm assuming, consciousness again and goes back into the animalistic thing that he was portraying. So Colin ends up going across the street, like maybe not even 100 feet. And there's another man out there who is waiting for a bus. And you can see Colin provoking him, hitting him, moving around, and then the next thing you know, which they don't show on video, is he jumps on this guy and starts biting his face off. When the police show up, he has already bitten through his head, has eaten one of his eyes, ripped off one of his ears, and they found the ear on top of a $5 bill that was on the floor. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and read more or less what the police were saying. And it starts off with the blank stare. It says, when officers asked Czech what was going on, Czech, Colin, gave a blank stare without saying anything. Then when they took him into custody, they asked him what happened. Czech replied, he attacked me. While in police custody, and I'm reading this from one of the articles, because like I said, I don't have a lot of information. But while in police custody, Czech was reportedly going in and out of consciousness and was taken to UMC hospital. After Czech was read his Miranda rights, Czech told police he is homeless and has been awake for 5 days straight because something is possessing me, is what he says. Before coming to the hospital, Czech said he was getting in a fight with a guy who he described as a shapeshifter. Czech also said he was tweaking. Now remember, keep in mind, he was up for 5 days because he says he was possessed by a demon. Now, let me continue with this. He said he was hearing voices in his head telling him to kill Drake, who Czech does not know. When officers asked if he did kill Drake, Czech said yes. Czech told police he killed Drake through the help of the higher power, and he did not see Drake with any weapons. When asked what he used to hurt Drake, Czech said, my teeth. Czech went on to say he used his teeth to eat Drake's eyeballs and ears. To rephrase what happened, this is Colin Czech's story of what happened. That he was possessed for 5 days. He was up straight for 5 days. He had trouble sleeping. He was coming in and out of consciousness. He was growling like a dog. When I heard this story, it reminded me so much of Rudy Eugene, Anesson Joseph, Austin Harrouff, and Matthew Bernard. And the reason is because they did the same thing. The only difference was that Czech was clothed. He had clothes on. But here's the thing, and this is why I wanted to do this story, because I know it sounds similar to the other ones. I'm trying to find a pattern of movement of this demon. And guys, I swear to you, I went down the rabbit hole on this one. And that's why I didn't do the show last week, because I started following the path, starting with Rudy Eugene, who was in Miami, and he walked from the beach through the causeway, which is 3 miles or 4 miles actually, to the point where he attacked the homeless man and started biting him. Now, he was shot and killed by police. The pattern goes in 2 years, within 2 years, there was a second one. Now, Rudy Eugene was in 2012. Anesson Joseph happened in 2014. Anesson Joseph also walked 4 miles from the hospital where he dropped off his sister. He left his car in the parking area at the hospital. Like he was driving off the property and just stopped and got out and started walking. He walked 4 miles before he started attacking people on his way to where the police shot him. Now, his travel movements as well, just like Rudy Eugene, were going from south to north. And this was near the beach area in Florida. The third one, Austin Harrouff, was also near the beach at Jupiter, in Jupiter, Florida. And Austin Harrouff also traveled 4 miles north before he killed 2 people and bit one of the faces off. Now, Austin Harrouff, and here's the thing. Between Rudy Eugene and Anesson Joseph was 2 years. Between Anesson Joseph and Austin Harrouff was also 2 years. Austin Harrouff, they did not kill. Anesson Joseph, they did. Rudy Eugene, they did. The police killed both of those guys. I'm thinking there's a pattern of every 2 years, this thing comes back after its host is killed. Now, in the thing with Rudy Eugene, or the thing with Austin Harrouff, is that Austin Harrouff was actually on a life support machine because he tried to kill himself, supposedly. I think the demon thought Austin was actually going to die, and it got out of him. Because 2 years after Austin Harrouff, and keep in mind, guys, if this is the same creature, okay? He started off naked, and then the next one, Anesson Joseph, naked. Austin Harrouff had his underwear on, but pretty much naked. Then he jumped into Matthew Bernard. Now, Matthew Bernard was also 2 years, except his was not in Florida. It was actually in Virginia. Now, for me, this thing, because the way I do it, I try to find these patterns of 2 years. But since Austin Harrouff didn't die, it could have changed it. But let me continue. So this thing traveled along the beach in Florida, and then it went all the way to the other side of Florida, still near the beach in Tampa Bay. From Tampa Bay, it traveled to Virginia, and I believe Matthew Bernard's brother-in-law might have been carrying it without even knowing, or maybe it was one of the other players, or maybe it was something else. But there's a connection between Matthew Bernard in Virginia and the other 3 that happened in Florida. Plus, like I said, Matthew Bernard was also naked, also trying to bite the face off a person. And his connection is his brother-in-law who played baseball for Florida. The only difference with Matthew Bernard was that he shot his family before he ran off into the woods. Then he got naked, came running back out, and started trying to bite the face off of a guy that was at a church. Now, for me, I have to find the link between why it went from Virginia to San Diego to Colin Czech. Keep in mind, though, Matthew Bernard was actually considered incompetent to stand trial until April 5th of 2024. Colin Czech committed this crime the 28th of April 2024. Could this thing have gone from one coast to the other and jumped into Colin, who then traveled to Las Vegas and started doing what he did? For me, it looks really interesting that this demon is traveling north. And I couldn't find anything before Rudy Eugene, and I couldn't find anything after Austin Harrouff along the coastline of Florida. But for me, this thing was in Matthew Bernard, where he started learning about human behavior. He was able to stay in him for 5 years until he finally left. Now Matthew Bernard is competent to stand trial as of April 4th. Maybe it was even sooner. I've been trying to locate the movements of Colin Czech from San Diego to Las Vegas, which is very hard. And we're talking from January of 2024 to April of 2024. So we're talking 4 months where there's no background, there's no knowing when he left San Diego, but he tells the police that he was homeless. Guys, this man is a very intelligent, he was going for his MBA. He had his own place. He had an apartment. He has friends. He's got family, I'm sure. I mean, all this, and then within 4 months, he's homeless in Las Vegas. Now, here's the thing that bothers me too. On the videos of him attacking these people, his hair, he has a haircut. He's clean. He's not dirty. You know, I'm sure if he was homeless, you know, maybe he has a place to go and shower or whatever. But somebody would have came forward and said, oh, I know this guy. He used to sleep here at the homeless shelters or whatever. But there is none of that. It's almost like he disappeared from January till April when he got arrested. I tried to reach the ResMed company, but they wouldn't give me information on him, of course, because they don't give information out on employees. Whether he was still employed or not, I have no idea. But like I said, as of 2024 January, he obviously was at ResMed because he put that down on his LinkedIn. This demon for me was Wuzhiqi. Followed this path of staying near the ocean because it draws its power, its energy from the water. When I did my show on Austin Harrouff said that he had power to control the water. He said that he could control it and it would give him energy, and it was a source of strength. Could this have been the Demon Wuzhiqi that jumped from person to person to person? Now, keep in mind, remember, I told you every 2 years, but because Matthew Bernard did not die, Matthew Bernard was taken alive. This thing was in him this whole time for 5 years because he was incompetent to stand trial for the 5 years. And now, and only now, as of April 2024, is he able to stand trial because he is competent now. We're talking about medications that the prison has been giving them for the past 5 years to control his delusions or whatever they think it is. But for me, this demon decided there's nothing else he can do to damage this kid's life. So he jumped out and somehow, some way, got to San Diego. And from San Diego, he got into Colin Czech, traveled to Las Vegas, and did what he did. And the sad part is also, it seems like he's trying to learn to be human. This time, he had his clothes on. This time, he didn't fight the police officers. This time, he allowed himself to be taken. Now, if it's true that Colin Czech is competent to stand trial, did this thing already jump? Because it's only been a few months since April of 2024. As of right now, we are just at April 1st, so it's been a year. Is this thing able to jump faster now? And is it learning how to be or look or sound or mimic us to the point where we're not going to notice it no more? Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you have a good week.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Demon Inside podcast on any podcast platform. A new episode of the Demon Inside will be released every week. Let us know what you think of the episode on all our social media platforms. If you have any questions or comments, go to the Demon Inside podcast at gmail.com or click on the link down below. We would love to hear from you. And to become a Demon Insider, go to our website, thedemoninsidepodcast.com. We thank you for listening and hope you will join us next week for a new Demon Inside podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell your friends. I am John Venom, and I'll see you next time, if I don't get possessed. The Demon Inside was written and created by James Porter. It is a production of Venomous Entertainment. Background music is by Lucas King.